Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco, where as we bring this to you now, it is Tuesday morning, and a Dallas Cowboys assistant coach has a serious medical condition. Here's exactly what we know at this time, keeping in mind that HIPAA regulations preclude us from telling you all the things we know and from discussing in too much detail what's going on with the Cowboys. A staffer, it is not involved the Jones family, it is not Mike McCarthy, it's somebody on Mike McCarthy's staff. Apparently a serious medical condition at about 7:30 this morning. Emergency medical people were summoned to the Star, and this staffer was then taken to the hospital. The situation, as we understand it this morning, is a serious one. Jerry Jones, shortly after this occurrence, went on the radio on 105.3 The Fan, did his radio show. He did mention, by the way, that nobody on the staff has a COVID-19 issue this week, that they've all been tested as they frequently are here inside the Star, so not an issue there. And in this particular case, this is not COVID related either. That doesn't mean that there aren't COVID issues everywhere. There are. The Adam Thielen illness, the wide receiver, of course, for the Vikings, that was spectacular in what ended up being a Dallas Cowboys 31-28 victory. Adam Thielen, on Monday, it's announced he has COVID. And so, of course, everybody in the Cowboys building, everybody in the Cowboys traveling party wants to check themselves and make sure that they don't have that issue. And again, Mr. Jerry Jones telling us, no, not an issue there. Injury issues do pop up. Washington, the opponent on Thanksgiving Thursday, as of Monday, has some real problems. The wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, who I think is probably not only their best weapon on offense, but might be their only real offense. Although they're 3-7 too, they've got 3 wins too, just like the Cowboys have their 3 wins. He did not practice on Monday, and they have their assorted bumps and bruises coming off a win over Cincinnati, in which they, not purposely, knocked out Cincinnati rookie quarterback Joe Burrow with a serious knee injury for the rest of the year. So Washington coming off a win in a very short week for them, as they've got to turn around now and travel to DFW, of course. The Cowboys have a short week of their own. They did have a walkthrough on Monday and battled through a few injury issues there. Randy Gregory, by the way, who I think only had 13 snaps in the game at Minnesota, not an injury issue, and even though he did have an illness late last week, not really an illness issue either. Coach's decision on Randy Gregory moving down the totem pole a little bit in terms of Cowboy defensive ends. We will have more on that story. We do know more on that story. We're going to talk to a couple of the principals and make sure we have our ducks in a row before we speculate too much. And obviously that's the same thing with the medical emergency here at the Star this morning. I can certainly understand the hunger for information. And I also understand, I guess, why we go through the checking of boxes. And sometimes it looks a little inappropriate, frankly. If you contact the Frisco Police Department, one of the questions that comes up is, was there foul play? And that's a natural question, even though it seems so odd, because it suggests that when they deny foul play, the first thing that pops in your head is, wait, foul play at the Star involving a member of the Cowboys staff? But that's not involved here. And then certainly you concern yourself with the serious level of the nature of the illness and the condition of this person. Obviously, the concern is great enough inside the building, and probably, and I know some people have said that reported that it was emotional inside the building. I think we can just assume it was. It's 7:30 in the morning, and the member of the coaching staff is being taken off by ambulance to the hospital, and you're trying to start your day of work, and this is your coworker. And in some cases your supervisor, and absolutely you're emotional about it. And now try to find a way to juggle both your emotions and your concern for this emergency situation and do your job the way we all eventually at some point are required to do our jobs. The Cowboys' job will not include a practice today on Tuesday, thus making a short week even shorter. Not that football is the immediate concern right now, but it is the eventual concern. It is my job. And it is your passion, and it is their job. but no Mike McCarthy media briefing. That was scheduled for 10:30 on Tuesday morning. That's been canceled. No player contact today. Again, the usual Zoom contact that we get every day with 2 or 3 players. That's been canceled as well, and no practice today. So the Cowboys put at a bit of a disadvantage because of what they hope is a tragedy that can be averted. We will continue, of course, with information on this, as well as thoughts and prayers for the Cowboys family as they go through an issue that is affecting them emotionally, affecting them certainly schedule-wise, and affecting their ability and impact when it comes to doing their job. We've talked about the road to the postseason, and in terms of Cowboys versus Washington, that road to the NFC East title, which is the playoffs and is a home playoff opening game, which I recognize the tank thoughts, but you want to go to the playoffs. If you're good enough to go to the playoffs, you want to go to the playoffs. And if you're good enough to have a home game to open the playoffs, you want to have a home game to open the playoffs. The Cowboys' schedule, as opposed to the rest of the NFC East teams, is softer. And I don't just mean strength of schedule in terms of wins and losses. It's that too. But there's something more to it. The Cowboys have already gotten done with the Rams, who beat up everybody else, or in the process of beating up everybody else in this division. They've already gotten done with the Seattle Seahawks, who are on the menu for some of the teams in the NFC East. They've already done their deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, Pittsburgh Steelers, undefeated, are on the future menu for some of the teams in the NFC East. So this is a pivotal game on Thursday. This might be a deciding game. The Giants, they have their 3 wins, but they have some turmoil inside the building. Our friend Mark Colombo dismissed, and everybody in a rage over it, including Joe Judge and Mark Colombo. The story there, by the way the story goes, no, it wasn't a fight, as a fist fight, but it was so emotionally charged that our understanding is that Joe Judge didn't fire Mark Colombo, the offensive line coach, face-to-face, that he sent team security to go do it, which seems ungentlemanly, but maybe the situation was just that volatile. And no, you don't want to get in a wrestling match with Mark Colombo. And now comes news that Jason Garrett, our old friend, is in conflict on the coaching staff in New York, that the development of Daniel Jones hasn't been what they'd hoped it was, just like the development of the offensive line under Mark Colombo, in Joe Judge's view, not fast enough, not good enough. And so now there's gossip that Jason Garrett might be on the hot seat under Joe Judge in New York. And having said all that, they have as many wins as anybody else in the division, and literally as good a chance as anybody else in the division. And then there come the Eagles, who have the same 3 wins, but they have the tie. So that changes things a little bit for them and makes it, if you just look at the standings, makes it look just a tad bit rosier for them. But then you look at the schedule, you look at the injuries, and you look at the awful performance of Carson Wentz, who basically leads the NFL in everything negative. If there's a negative stat, the Philadelphia Eagles star quarterback, Carson Wentz, pretty much leads the NFL in that negative stat. I still think Philadelphia has the talent to pull itself out of these doldrums, but the schedule might not allow it to do that. Their injuries might not allow it to do that. And then, as long as we're talking about emotion, and that's a big part of this game, emotion might not allow them to do that. Slowly but surely, while the Vikings game gives the Cowboys a little more belief in what they might be able to do in Dallas, the Eagles' outcome, most recently against the Browns, where they just couldn't tackle anybody, among many other problems, that may strip away some of their confidence. So this is a newsy, emotional, and important week for the Cowboys. We went from the silliness of sledgehammering watermelons on Saturday night to the thrill of a Sunday victory at Minnesota. Now this very dark and cloudy moment where they deal with the serious illness of a member of the coaching staff. And then Thanksgiving, the celebration that it should be, the celebration that it must be, football and otherwise. as Jerry Jones said, maybe this is a time, he said on the radio this morning on 105.3 The Fan, he remembers his parents and he remembers his grandparents and what a great time it was. And maybe this is a time when we all just sit around by ourselves and look at photos, or sit around by ourselves and watch football. We will be at AT&T Stadium, of course, on Thursday for Cowboys versus Washington, and we will be right here keeping you abreast of all things going on here in Frisco inside the Star. Fish out.